بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Alhamdulillah, we begin with the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and by sending the best of salutations, peace and blessings upon his last and final messenger Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Once someone asked Aisha radiallahu anha, the mother of the believers, our dear mother, that what becomes the means or the cause of earthquakes? SubhanAllah, one thing we need to understand, nothing happens without a reason in this world. There must be a reason, and behind that reason there's divine hikmah, wisdom of Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes it's for the benefit of humanity at large, sometimes it's not. But either way, anyhow, anything and everything that happens for a reason. It's not in vain, it's not that it was a coincidence. SubhanAllah, in one way one could say, there are no coincidences in the decree of Allah, in fate. There are no, everything is planned, everything is well thought of, and then, لِكُلِّ أَجَلٍ مُسَمَّى. So, someone asked Aisha radiallahu anha, what causes earthquakes? SubhanAllah. Her response and answer, I'll share it in a few minutes inshallah. But you ask a person today, what answer do you think they'll give to you? Right? Exactly. Oh, there's a little bit of a plate, difference within the Earth's core, or as he was mentioning. And they'll give you a scientific reason. And subhanAllah, not just that, it seems as if today's society is giving everything a scientific reason as to why it's occurring or why it's happening. Oh, because of this or because of that. Whereas for a Muslim, again, nothing happens without a reason or a cause. For example, an earthquake. When someone asked Aisha radiallahu anha, she mentioned, and the message of this narration is, it's because of the actions of man. It's because the a'mal of people. So she says, what did she say? She says a few things. She says, when fornication and adultery becomes, openly done and in public or shamelessly, two things. So when fornication and adultery is performed or done openly and shamelessly, wine, alcohol is drunk, right? Alcohol is consumed, and musical instruments are used as if they were permissible or admissible, as if they were allowed or okay to be used. Then the wrath of Allah descends, and because of these actions, people are toppled. The earthquakes take place. SubhanAllah, when fornication, adultery, consumption of alcohol, and musical instruments. And SubhanAllah, one of the signs, a few of the signs of the Day of Judgment, or the signs of the hour, earthquakes will become more frequent. And it's happening in our day and age. Fornication will become frequent. Adultery will become common. Wine will be consumed. That's happening, believe it or not. Even within Muslim communities, it's happening. People have an alcohol problem. And then musical instruments. Who nowadays thinks music to be haram? You must be the odd one out to think that. You must really be living under a rock if you still think music is haram. Try saying that in the public, don't listen to music, it's haram. They'll label you an extremist immediately. Yes. Like, you don't belong in this society. Which part of the world did you come from? You're telling us, you're saying music is haram? And subhanAllah, you'll have Muslims debating that no, it's halal, it's okay. So and so, fulan, so and so, and they'll just call him scholar, said it's okay. It all goes back to, let's stick to our Quran and Sunnah. We do not need the understanding of the enlightened minds of the 21st century. We're happy and content with the understanding of our Habib Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's mind and his companions and the Salaf al-Salihin, the Tabi'een, and so on and so. We are people of lineage, really. Alhamdulillah, we are people of lineage. We're able to trace our spiritual roots back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So don't, listen to some average Joe on YouTube who's promoting that music is permissible. Or they'll say it's all right as long as it doesn't take you to extreme ends or bounds, as if it's all right to listen to from time to time, or if it's okay to listen to it for therapy reasons. Subhanallah, again, when you do not have a spiritual guide, a mentor, a religious figure, then that space gets filled by the devil himself, who becomes your spiritual guide, who becomes a person to advise, to inform, and to guide you wherever he wants to guide you. So, upon this narration of Aisha radiallahu anha, let's just look at it this. Fornication is a problem. What can we as the Muslim Ummah do in preventing that, or in deterring this issue from rising, or for it to remain within our own communities? We're talking about Muslim communities. The very first thing, if you're a parent, facilitate marriage for your children. Being honest and upfront. However old your child, teenager or adult, if may Allah forbid, they fall into the sin of fornication, what makes you think they aren't ready for marriage? Strange. If someone has it in himself or herself to go out of their way and fall into the sin of fornication, what makes you as the parent think that they are not ready to start a life? So what we as the parents end up doing is we close doors to halal and we leave doors to haram open. We facilitate haram and we frustrate halal. That's what we do at the end of the day. A few parents have come to me, my child is in mad love. I don't know what to do. Can you talk to him for a moment? Or can you just speak to him? I said, sure. I'll speak to him in one condition. Both parents be present. You, mom or dad, be present. And the moment they come, mom, dad, just go along with whatever he's saying. He's in mad love. Just let him get married. Because if you don't do that today, things may go the wrong way. At the very least, the worst case scenario, if you think that he's wrong in making this decision, well, he'll learn it the right way on the long run, but at least through halal means, right? They'll get married, and then they'll come to know, well, love was just, it was a bit too much for just a few days. I don't think this is going to work out for the long run. Well, they'll go their separate way, but at least they went and more or less lived their very few short days they had together through the permissible means rather than haram means. So as parents, we should try to facilitate avenues and means of halal. If your child says so, bismillah, well, son, daughter, fine. If you say so, then it must be through halal way. If not, then what are you doing? So that's that. And then you come along to the portion of where Aisha radiallahu ta'ala mentions consumption of alcohol. And we know alcohol to be khaba'ith, the mother of all sins, how it clouds your senses and how it's addictive and how it's, subhanAllah, it really takes a person out of shape. And again, subhanAllah, you may have scientific reasons for why it's healthy to consume alcohol from time to time. And then they'll tell you, okay, now be sober for a couple of days. You're taking too much intake. Right? For us, our moral guiding compass is not science. Remember that. Our moral and guiding compass is not science. It's the divine command of Allah, whether we understand it or we don't. I reiterate, I go back to that advice which I mentioned earlier during the month of Ramadan. If something doesn't make sense to us, it's all right. Don't try to put sense into it. In time, all will fit into place and you'll come to a realization of the wisdoms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala behind certain commands. Your duty is just to adhere, to obey, to go by it, abide, live by it. Whether it makes sense to you or not. Sami'na wa ata'na. And inshallah, in time, everything will just work out just fine. And then, subhanAllah, the issue, the whisper, the deception of shaitan, something doesn't add up to us. I don't know. I'm still going to do what I think is right. That's your ego. That's very shaitan-like of a response, because that's what Iblis said. I don't know. He can't be better than me. You're telling me to prostrate to something or person who's created from clay, from dirt and dust. I'm created from fire, and the nature of fire is to rise, and the nature of dirt and dust is to subside, right? Fire rises. So you light up a fire. Do you think it's going to go underground? It'll rise. That's the nature of it. Whereas dust, it just sinks in. It subsides. It lays really low. So that's what Iblis said. Ana khayrun min. He did not adhere to the command of Allah, whether it made sense to him or not. And the same is happening in our day and age. Certain commands of Allah, like, I don't know, it's not adding up to me. It's fine. I'll just continue doing what I'm doing. It takes real courage to admit to your mistake. And we're missing a lot of that courage nowadays. We are. And on a final note, going back to the musical instruments, it's also addiction. And if you just kind of gauge and step back and look at our society, everything that's happening around us, it's almost as if every single thing around us has an element of addiction in it. Everything. Whether it's, the term workaholic, in terms of us working over, like way beyond our actual physical wellness, or whether it's our hobbies, or whether it's whatever it be, but it seems as if there's an element of addiction to everything around us. The only thing we're not addicted to is our faith, is our iman, is the Quran and Sunnah. So even when it comes to music, it's very addictive and can be addictive. And if a person doesn't kind of, wean off of it, it's very difficult for that person to let it go. So you start with small steps. First, know that this is not helping. In fact, it's going to further stir issues in my life. I will not be able to think right. I won't mention much, but think of it this way. I'm sure most of you know who rappers are, or singers, right? That's what they do for a living. But have you ever seen a singer or a rapper very humble, down to earth, polite, generous, caring, loving, has the best interest of humanity and people around him at all times? Subhanallah, Rasulullah has mentioned, Al-ghina'u yumbitu nifaqa fil qalb, kama yumbitu al-ma' zara, that singing and songs and whatnot, these things, they place nifaq, hypocrisy, within the heart. Just it really grows in the heart, just as how when you water a plant and how that plant grows. The same outcome. You see these singers, you see these rappers, what are they doing, what are they saying? I mean, they'll look at you with a different eye, just to show you how inferior you are to them. Like, who are you? It's all in their look and appearance, and even in their walk and talk. That's the outcome. That's the result of their music industry. Subhanallah. That's that. But whereas, alhamdulillah, the Quran, on the other hand, it humbles us. It shakens us. It brings us back to the reality of everything. So if a person has a habit of listening to music, get off of it, replace it with the Quran, and in time, inshallah, the joy you'll find in listening to the recitation of the Quran, you will not find it anywhere else. And again, it's our weakness. Shaitan uses musical instruments as to lure us in, and then to get a hold of us. So we need to stay away rather than fall into that trap and then try to remedy our way out. Let's not go into the first place to begin with. All of these become the means of earthquakes happening upon the planet. Subhanallah, if we could just be mindful of these sins and try our utmost within our own immediate families and making sure, inshallah, these things are not happening, so that we could remain protected and, inshallah, under the security and protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us strength and wisdom. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تبارك وتعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بسم الله.